Greetings, fellow travelers, vagrants, explorers, wildlanders, and welcome to the Retro Wildlands. My name is Nomad, and this is my gaming podcast where I like to share my thoughts and experiences with a video game that I've discovered or rediscovered while roaming the gaming wildlands. Thank you for joining us around the campfire, my friends. Today, I've got another entry to add into our Gaming Wildlands expedition log, and this one stuck with me a little longer than I expected. You know those games you start thinking you've got all figured out? You think you know the genre, the vibe, the path it's gonna take, and then somewhere along the way, it quietly pulls the rug out from under you. That's what the game Dispatch did to me. As a huge fan of Telltale Games, who developed some amazing narrative adventures like The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us, I thought I knew what I was getting into here. What I didn't expect was to come away thinking about burnout, responsibility, and what it means to help people when you're barely holding yourself together. Dispatch doesn't ask you to save the world with your fists or some amazing superpower, just with your voice, your judgment, and your empathy. Now, before opening the logbook today, a quick disclaimer about the episode. While I don't spoil anything about the game's story that you don't pick up from the game's trailers or the first 20 or so minutes of gameplay, I will be highlighting some specific scenes from the game that I found memorable, or a scene that I wanted to use to help highlight a point I made during my discussion. While these scenes are chosen to keep plot revelations to a minimum, they can be considered spoilers for those wanting to experience the game on their own, knowing as little about the game as they can. So, that said, please be warned as you listen today. Lastly, some of the scenes that I have chosen to highlight may contain some of the game's darker humor, vulgar language, and scenes that can be sexual in nature. Listener discretion is advised. Gaming Wildlands Expedition Entry 3. Game: Dispatch. System: PlayStation 5. Originally completed December 31st, 2025. Picture this, if you will. You boot up a game that looks like it's going to be your standard superhero story. There's capes, there's superpowers, there's villains, there's big personalities. There's probably some morally questionable outfits in there too. You think you know the deal. And then Dispatch quietly slides a rolling chair underneath you, points at a desk covered in blinking lights, and says, "You're not the one saving the city today. You're working with the ones who actually can." Dispatch is a narrative-driven game, but it immediately sidesteps the usual superhero power fantasy. Instead of throwing you into spandex and asking you to punch crime directly in the face, it puts you behind a desk and it's on you to lead a team of villains turned heroes, so that they may actually do some good for a change. You play as Robert Robertson, and yes, that is his real name. Very early on, we learn that Robert is a superhero named Mecha Man, who is definitely not inspired by Iron Man. Robert has no actual superpowers of his own, but instead, he fights for justice inside a huge mechanical suit. In the opening moments of the game, Mecha Man is ambushed by a gang of supervillains led by the evil Shroud. While Shroud himself looks menacing, he isn't just another villain. We learn early on as well that Shroud seemingly killed Robert's father, so a confrontation wasn't just inevitable, it was personal. While Mecha Man was barely able to escape the supervillain ambush, his suit did not survive. Destroyed beyond his ability to repair it, Robert's confidence is shot and his emotional walls are sky high. Without his suit, Robert, and by extension Mecha Man, is out of the fight. But that's until the renowned superhero Blonde Blazer gives Robert an offer.
Robert, I would like to make you an offer. In exchange for dispatching and mentoring some of our rookie heroes, SDN can make you Mecha Man again. But this time with all the resources that a company as big as ours has at their disposal. No more paying out of pocket for repairs. Support staff, the whole shebang.
So this was like some sort of interview?
I was worried that you might be...
Crazy?
Unstable, damaged, unfit, batshit, dipshit, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It's a big investment. It'll take considerable time and money to get the suit repaired and the missing pieces replaced. Plenty of time to learn how to dispatch and level up some of the heroes on our roster. Your experience, your work ethic, your perspective, it's all invaluable. Share it, Robert. You have a lot left to give.
Wait, so you want me to sit in an office and dispatch heroes?
That's the idea, but just until we get your suit put back together.
At this point, Robert begins his work as a dispatcher for the Superhero Dispatch Network, or SDN, coordinating a team of, let's call them aspiring heroes. These are villains turned heroes, people with powers, baggage, egos, and a lot of unresolved issues. Your job isn't to save the world directly, it's to make sure that the people who can save the world don't completely screw it up. And right there, Dispatch tells you exactly what kind of story it wants to be. This isn't about power. It's about responsibility. It's about the effects of burnout. It's about what happens after you fail, and what it means to still show up when you're exhausted and guarded and unsure if you even belong anymore. When it comes to Robert, he is one of the most relatable protagonists that I've played in years, and that's not because he's cool or aspirational or anything, it's because he's deeply human. Robert is sarcastic, he's closed off, he's clearly carrying guilt and regret from his time as Mecha Man, and he's convinced, at least at the start, that this dispatcher job is just temporary. He is biding his time, waiting for his chance to get back in the fight. And really, I connected with all of that. Because who hasn't told themselves, this is not where I'm supposed to be, this is just a holding pattern? And who hasn't clung to a version of themselves that they used to be, or thought that they were supposed to be, while ignoring the good that they're actually doing right now? Dispatch doesn't rush Robert's growth, it doesn't smooth out his rough edges, and his arc is slow, messy, and it's very personal. Sometimes Robert makes the wrong call, sometimes he shuts people out, sometimes he tells people to go fuck themselves, and sometimes he helps in ways that don't always look heroic on the surface. This style of character is fascinating to me, and he's written incredibly well. When playing as Robert, the game is divided into two parts. On one side, you'll be working with your band of superheroes through the dispatch system, and it'll be up to you to match the right heroes to the right jobs, increasing their chances of mission success. If they succeed, they'll level up and become stronger, able to take on tougher challenges. On the other side of things is the narrative-driven angle of the game. This has Robert interacting with his team and other characters more directly, and your dialogue choices, as well as your performance on shift, will determine how Robert's relationships with others form and how they treat him as a person. But how you decide to lead your team will be more or less up to you. You can be a hard ass that takes no shit from anyone, a compassionate leader looking to bring out the good in your crew, or you can be a bit of both.
Look, Robert, you should be proud. The bar is very low with this group.
Well, it's not low for me. Look, I like to make a joke and keep things light as much as the next person. But when it comes to work, I'm not fucking around here. If you want the Phoenix program to survive, the bar needs to go up.
And how would we do that?
By treating the Z team like what they are, a bunch of villains. And leading a supervillain team takes a different approach than a superhero team. I need to be around them. I need them to see I'm all in, and they need to match that energy.
Some tough love.
The only kind I know. And based on what I've seen, the only version they'll respond to. I'm not saying everyone will make it. They won't. I'm not saying it won't get spicy. It will. But when it does, I also need you to trust me to handle it. I don't want you stepping in. They need to respect me, even if I don't have powers.
Okay, we'll do it your way. Monday, we'll get them in a room and introduce them to their new supervillain leader.
I can't promise it'll work. I can only promise that I'll do my best.
No fucking way it's gonna work, but it'll be way more fun to watch.
Chase, some optimism, please.
God damn it. Yeah, I also promise to do my best.
Dispatch absolutely lives and dies by its cast of characters, and I am happy to say it absolutely lives. This game has a large ensemble of characters, and every single one of them feels like someone you'd actually have to manage in a workplace and potentially get to know. They've all got strengths, they've all got flaws, and they've all got emotional baggage that absolutely bleeds into their performance. Some characters flirt with familiar tropes at first, but the writing consistently pushes them deeper. I never hit a point where I thought, oh my god, I do not want to deal with this person right now. I genuinely wanted more time with everyone. For example, there's Blonde Blazer, the superhero who gives Robert his shot as an SDN dispatcher. Think of her like Captain Marvel, but with a ton more personality. She's flashy, charming, and fully aware that she is the most traditionally heroic person in the room. Underneath the bravado, though, she's deeply invested in being seen as more than just a walking brand, which makes her one of the most emotionally honest characters in the game. Invisigal is the team's stereotypical outsider and loner. She's quiet, observant, and emotionally guarded in a way that mirrors Robert almost a little too well. With the power to stay invisible so long as she can hold her breath, she's someone who's spent most of her life unseen, literally and figuratively. And her arc is all about learning how to take up space without disappearing into the background. Chase is another character that stood out for me. He is the supervisor type who's been in the system long enough to know how ugly things can get, and Jeffrey Wright's performance gives him this steady, weary authority. As a young hero trapped in an old man's body, his dialogue and backstory are equal parts hilarious as they are touching. There are many more characters to meet, but I'll let you learn about them on your own. During dispatch segments, you're learning how each hero operates. As you send them out on missions, you're learning what situations that they excel in, who works well together, who absolutely does not work well together, and all of it creates this really satisfying rhythm where character development happens organically through gameplay, not just in cutscenes. Oh, and the voice acting? Mwah, top notch. Aaron Paul, who you might know from Breaking Bad, plays Robert and is pitch perfect. He comes off as tired, guarded, sarcastic, but never flat. Laura Bailey's Invisigal and Aaron Yvette's Blonde Blazer both bring so much nuance, warmth, and my perfect brand of dark humor. Alana Pierce turns in a solid performance as Malevola, another of your team of villains gone hero, and Matt Mercer turns in a stellar performance as Shroud. There were moments in the story and dialogue where I genuinely laughed out loud. There were moments where I honestly fist pumped. There were a few moments where I sat there quietly contemplating to myself. There were even a few moments where I felt a tear or two well up in my eyes. If you let Dispatch tell the story that it wants to tell in the way that it wants to tell it, it will absolutely land for you. You'll realize this is more than just a game about superheroes, but more so about people looking for that second shot.
Who locks a conference room? So, you two fuck or what?
No professional lines were crossed.
Alright. or just like grinding, clothes on stuff?
Busy? Knock it off. I just got a little tipsy at our meeting.
A meeting? Is that what it was?
Robert, this is Invisigal. She is part of the Phoenix program. We take former supervillains, such as herself, and rehabilitate them to re-enter society to use their powers for... Are those my earrings?
Well, they look better on me.
Invisigal, this is Robert. He'll be your team's dispatcher.
A washed-up dad bod superhero with no superpowers. Can't wait.
His identity, all of this, that's staying between us. He's still Mecha Man, but that can't get out. And if it does, I'll know who it came from.
You think I want to tell people our dispatcher's a fucking loser?
Look, I'm here to help. It's what I do. You have a chance to turn things around, bring some good into the world, and I'll support you in whatever way possible. So that maybe, just maybe, by the end of all of this, helping people is what you do too.
Well, I'm wet. I see why you like him. Look at that trip. What does that look? Best Buy Fight Club? Fucking hot.
Let's talk about choices, because this is where a lot of narrative games tend to stumble. Dispatch doesn't pretend every dialogue option radically alters the entire story. When making some choices, it's very clear that you're just deciding the tone at which Robert responds to a situation, or what funny or sarcastic thing you want him to say. That said, what Dispatch's choices do accomplish is making your choices feel emotionally consistent. Sometimes the impact is immediate, but sometimes it shows up much later in a small reaction, a shift in tone, or the way a character treats you. It's not about branching paths, it's about emotional continuity. Sure, there's probably a decision tree in the background of all the choices and all the eventualities, but where in other narrative games this idea was very clear for the player to see, I feel like Dispatch does a good job keeping everything cohesive. The game trusts you to notice these changes in story and tone without flashing a huge neon sign that says, "Hey, you, remember that thing you did earlier? Here are your repercussions, you're welcome." That restraint fits the tone perfectly. Dispatch isn't about control, it's about influence and intention, and ultimately living with the results. I found myself genuinely thinking through my responses. Not because I was trying to min-max outcomes, as the kids say, but because I cared about the relationships I was forming as well as the type of person I wanted my Robert to be. Now, another possibility in narrative games like this is navigating possible romances with some of the characters. In other games, pursuing romantic options can be as surface level as doing it to land an in-game achievement, or you're looking to see some on-screen touchy-feely. You don't really care about the character that you're pursuing, and that relationship doesn't really build up the narrative in a meaningful way. It's just a checkbox. In Dispatch, however, I felt like romance was done exceptionally well in a way that elevated the characters and the narrative in a believable, noticeable way. As you get to know Blonde Blazer and Invisigal, you'll get opportunities to hang out with them after hours, furthering Robert's relationship with them. And here's the thing. I honestly had a hard time deciding who I wanted to hang out with more and found myself genuinely torn. By the time the opportunity to hang out with either of them comes up, I found myself attached to both ladies for different reasons and agonized over who would get my time. That there is the mark of good character writing, and it was at that moment that I really appreciated the game's writers. These are video game characters, yet I found myself thinking about them on levels I was not expecting. In the end, I really appreciated that I never felt compelled to pursue anyone. And if I did, it folded into the narrative naturally. It enhanced the story instead of hijacking it. These romantic relationships, if you choose to pursue them, are all about vulnerability, connection, and timing. If you're approaching Dispatch as a character study, the romances work because they support those themes.
So, what are we, like, friends now? Or is this some sort of team-building exercise?
Why? Do you want us to be friends?
I haven't decided yet.
Would have been nice to know before I spent $86.
I'm not gonna fuck you just because you bought me a bucket of corn.
Can you just be normal for like a second? You first.
This is nice. What were you gonna say?
Do you like Sour Patch Kids?
I fucking love Sour Patch Kids.
Cool. Me too.
When it comes to the moment-to-moment gameplay like I mentioned before, things are split between making decisions during dialogue when you're off shift, and dispatching your heroes on missions via the dispatch system. This part of the game, where you're basically sitting down at your day job for a little bit, is pretty engaging all things considered. You only have so many heroes on your roster, so it's up to you to find the best fit for each job and continually balance your limited resources. You have to pay attention to your heroes and really get to know them in order to have a chance at success. Need someone to defeat a giant kaiju attacking downtown? A hero like Flambe, who has the power to control the fire and the flame and his skin does not burn, has a high combat stat, so he'll have a good chance of success here. Need to stop a robbery where stealth is paramount? This sounds like a perfect job for Invisigal. While there are some jobs that are perfectly tailored to a specific hero, there's no real fit, as the game tells you. Your chances for success increase the closer you align your hero's stats with the demands of the job, and even then, what the job requires may not be inherently clear. As you play, you'll also discover some heroes work very well together, so it's up to you to not only build those bonds up by sending characters on missions together that like each other, but you have to decide if doing so is the right call, since you'll effectively be down a person if you keep pairing heroes up with each other. Still, it's all pretty engaging and rewarding, especially when you succeed where you were pretty sure you were going to fail. Now, while this part of the game can be fun and there is some dialogue happening in between jobs, these parts of the game became more tedious near the end of the experience, and I found myself just wanting to push through these sections just so I could get back to the larger narrative beats. What also added to that feeling was that the control interface wasn't all that responsive to me, especially when there were multiple icons on screen. I ended up missing some dispatch calls because I couldn't quite get my cursor where it needed to be, since all I had was my PlayStation 5's directional pad to make sure of it. To contrast all of that, however, there are some fun hacking levels that pop up from time to time that allow Robert to solve a problem by completing a minigame. These hacking levels are fine for what they are, calling upon you to do some basic problem solving while sometimes under pressure due to a ticking clock. Some mission outcomes can be influenced by these hacking levels, so they aren't tacked on for the sake of it, and they slowly build up more advanced mechanics as the story goes on.
Invisigal, are you alright?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just help me find this fucker.
Got him. He's at your 5 o'clock.
It's not fair that you can see me, but I can't see you.
I'm flying blind here. I can't see anything. Great. Give me a second to tap into this. Got it. I can see again.
That makes one of us. So where the hell is he?
I can't see him from this camera. Let me try to get another one online.
If I have one major critique regarding Dispatch, it's the story's pacing, specifically around the main antagonist, Shroud. Dispatch spends so much time lovingly developing its characters that the central conflict sometimes takes a back seat to the entire narrative. For the first 3/4 of the game, you're learning about the characters of Dispatch and working alongside them while on shift. And while this is incredibly effective setting up character dynamics, backstories, and ultimately the reason these characters matter, the game seems to forget that Shroud is out there at all, outside of some offhanded mentions from others. By the time the story reaches its climax, things wrap up a little too quickly for my taste. Now, that's not to say the end of the game wasn't amazing or anything, it absolutely was, as you see the culmination of all of your choices and how far your team has come, but I wanted just a little bit more time with Shroud, just a little bit more room to explore that threat. I think that would have made the finale even more fantastic than it already was. When I look at the entire picture though, everything does work thematically, it just feels compressed in that final hour. Still, the emotional payoff lands. The reason for that is because in Dispatch, the journey really does matter more than the destination. And even if you don't see it all the time, this game does have that tug and pull between good versus evil. And when it comes to evil, all roads lead to Shroud.
Your dad, Chase, your little team of turncoats. You think you can beat the bad by being good, but there's no solving human nature. You can't stop evil. All you can do is control it.
When I step back and look at the entire package, Dispatch is a superhero story about carrying the weight. The weight of expectations, the weight of failure. Maybe you were meant to be the villain all along. Or maybe, just maybe, you can truly do some good in this world despite the hand that you've been dealt. Dispatch is funny, it's heartfelt, it's occasionally frustrating, and it's deeply relatable, especially if you've ever felt burned out yourself or you've been unsure of your own place in the world. There are battles we all face each and every day in our personal lives. And while real heroes don't start those battles or look to pick fights, they sure as hell finish them. This is a game about helping others when you don't feel particularly heroic yourself. And somehow, in doing that, Dispatch becomes something incredibly special and absolutely worth your time to experience.
Well, looks like I'm great at this, so that's gonna be bad for your negotiating position. Expect a lengthy...
Did I drool on you?
I don't think so.
Well, you see why we thought of... Well, why Trackstar thought of you.
It makes sense, yeah.
Meet me at the SDN offices tomorrow. I'm not done saving you yet. The folks at SDN are the best in the business, and we're striving to create a safer, stronger city every single day.
I met a nice lady.
The folks who live here have to deal with a lot.
She wants to help us out.
Potholes, people with bad intentions and super strength. And that's what SDN is here to help with. We respond to emergencies, keep neighborhoods safe.
And that brings us to the end of our third entry in the Wildlands Expedition Log, my friends. This has been the Retro Wildlands Expedition Log number 3, Dispatch. Thank you very much for tuning into the show today. Before we put out the campfire and head our separate ways, don't forget to give the Retro Wildlands a follow on social media and make sure you subscribe to the show as well. Our website, theretrowildlands.com, is also the place you want to be for the latest content, as well as our growing catalog of podcast episodes and blog entries. You can sign up for a free account on our website, which will give you the ability to leave comments on pretty much everything. And it's a great way to interact with me, the show, and the community outside of that dreaded social media algorithm. The Retro Wildlands is also part of the SuperPod Network, home of some other awesome video game podcasts and other gaming content, and you can check out all of that and more by heading over to superpodnetwork.com. Thank you all once again for hanging out with me today. Be sure to come back in a couple weeks and we'll turn the page on our expedition log and check out another modern game that I discovered on this epic gaming journey of mine. The next game I'm going to be highlighting in this audio format is a game that I fear has been talked about to death already. It was the, more or less, undisputed Game of the Year in 2025, and it was a game that took the world by storm. While I already wrote a small written review on this game in our expedition log for our website, I feel compelled to give this game the expanded audio experience. When people ask me about this game or try to understand why I like this game so much, I have a very hard time putting it into words. It's even harder for me to recommend the game because, without those words, all I can really tell people is, dude, you just have to play this game. And I think the game deserves a little bit more from my perspective. So, in a couple weeks, join me back here by the campfire as I bring you an enhanced audio experience when I talk about Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Before that, however, our next long-form podcast will see me taking on an all-time classic, Street Fighter II. I am not great with fighting games, but I feel I owe it to the community to highlight a game that arguably defined a generation and a genre. I suck so hard at fighting games, so I am eager to find out if Street Fighter II holds up today or if it's better left in the past. Until then, my friends, my name is Nomad, and you can find me roaming the Retro Wildlands.